Hi and welcome to Screencasts Online. My name is Richard and today we'll be going through part 2 of OneNote on Mac and iOS. In the previous tutorial on OneNote, tutorial number 705, we talked about downloading and installing, touring the interface, creating and working with pages and sections, and formatting your paragraphs and text with styles, numbering and bullets. We then moved on to iOS, looking at logging into Office 365, creating and editing sections and deleting them, creating notes on the iPad, and drawing with the Apple Pencil. In part 2, we'll be moving on to looking at linking notes, clipping into OneNote, creating tables, sharing notebooks, tagging, inserting audio and video, and scanning documents using Office Lens. So without further ado, let's get cracking.